Lunch Hour, the podcast. I'm happy to have with me Sarah Lilly and Sandra Carrasco.
Correct.
Yes, Carrasco from Bites and Bowls. And I'm excited you guys are here. How y'all feeling today?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Really good.
Okay, I want to apologize up front for being a man and messing up the chance to have a podcast that's fully women, and I'm messing it up by being a man here. But it's okay. We'll get through it.
Forgive me.
You're fine.
Yeah.
We're all about diversity and inclusion over here.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Okay, I wanted to start with you. Okay, and actually you too, because I just learned where you're from too, and both of you guys have this in common. You're both not from here, and so you both went through that transition of coming here. So I'm curious, what was that like for you?
Yeah, so I moved to Springdale back in 2007. It was really different to what it is today. I was born and raised in Mexico, in the north of Mexico, and I moved here to Northwest Arkansas. I had really hard time adjusting, and so I didn't know any English. So I did last year of high school, then I went to English school. Here at the university, they have the English program, and then I went to college. And honestly, until my senior year, I was thinking, I'm gonna stay here 2 years, start my career, and move back. Yeah. And here I am almost, I don't know how many years later, but I'm still here. I move around, but back, what was it, 2015, I decided to come back to Northwest Arkansas. Yeah.
What is it? Does Northwest Arkansas feel like home to you now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm turning 33, so that means almost half of my life I have been here. So yeah, I feel it. But once you leave your hometown for the first time and you relocate somewhere else, you learn to adjust and to call different places home.
That's true.
Right? So sometimes I go back home. You see me? I go back to Chihuahua and people, I'm at the airport and they ask me, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, I'm going back home. So I'm flying to Chihuahua, right? And then when I'm coming to Arkansas, it's like, where are you going? And I answer with the same, I have the same answer. I'm going back home. And then I'm like, okay, so where is home? I think we just learn to adjust and call different places home.
That's true. That's beautiful. All right, Sarah, what about you?
Well, I just want to say that it is so beautiful. I've actually been thinking about that concept a lot lately of like how beautiful and also a little bit heartbreaking, like having multiple places and sometimes people as home is, because you're never fully home at that point, you know, and it's like always this, like, you know, me being this sensitive little artist, I could think about those things. But yeah, I moved here from Pennsylvania. I was born in New York City and grew up there, and my dad, my parents are from the UK. They're immigrants from the UK, and my dad always wanted horses. He wanted a life with horses. He wanted a farm, and so he moved here and worked in the city for a while until he could afford a down payment on his farm in Pennsylvania. So then my childhood kind of shifted there to the horse farm. And there I became a professional rider at the age of 14, and that was like my whole life and my whole identity, basically until like 2 years ago. And what brought me to Arkansas was there's a lady, she's not here anymore, but she was trying to start like a farm here that travels and competes in this area, and I had like a seasonal job with her for 6 months, and it was like, you know, coming from the Northeast, I was like, Arkansas? You know, I was like, what am I doing? But it was like a pretty well-paid job, and I had nothing else to do. So I was like, I'll just do it, whatever. And then I like realized at some point during my time here, I was like, I'm kind of like really intrigued by this place. Like it really, really surprised me. It really sort of crept up on me, and I was like, I don't know if I want to leave right now. So I stuck around a little bit, and I'm still here. It's been 2 years now, and it's really cool. This place has treated me so well. There's been so many incredible things that have happened for me here with music, with meeting love more, with just, you know, I have a decent job and I have just a peaceful life, you know. It's such a quiet place, but there's a lot of opportunity, and it's a really cool balance. I love the balance of this place.
Okay, I have to ask, when you say riding,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Like horse riding?
Yeah.
Like you were
Horse
riding horse?
riding, yeah.
Okay, I'm from Chicago,
Yeah.
so can you explain it to me?
Yeah,
Like,
so there's lots of different types of horse riding. Like there's, Western, which is like the big saddles and like the cowboy hats, cowboy boots, big round spurs
Okay.
that look like gears. There's that style. And then my discipline is the English discipline, which I was brought up very like rigorous, like a German style of riding, which is like very militant and just intense. And they have the smaller saddles. The horses are a lot bigger. They're warm bloods. They're usually European warm bloods. And
Oh, wow.
we jumps. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of like horses jumping over striped poles. And it's an Olympic sport.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a whole world out there.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm really
That's
surprised
okay.
by this. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah,
So
I
you
know.
riding horses.
Surprise.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How did you go from riding horses to music?
Yeah, wow. So riding horses was kind of a given. I sort of was like born into it. I never wasn't gonna ride horses. Like that was the plan, for me. And I loved it, but I didn't choose it. And I think there's a really, really big difference between those two feelings. And yeah, so I went to college and I was like super indecisive and I was like, I don't even need to go to college. Like I have a whole riding career. I get paid, I get by, like I'm fine. And the longer I did it, the more I just felt like, you know what, I didn't choose this. And I had always been this very like artistic, empathetic, like I was a lot less like rigid, I guess, than some of the people I worked with in the horse world. And it just dawned on me, like, I don't know that these are fully my people or the community I want to be in. And I love horses, but there was just like this other side of me that was just screaming to be discovered, And during my time in college, which I wrote my whole album in college, and I was only in college for like a year and a half, it was like the only time that I grew up as an athlete going to school. So I would wake up at like 4, go and ride, go to school, come home, ride more, teach lessons, do homework if I could, and then go back to school. Like it was just this cycle of like never having any time for anything. And college was like the first moment where I had time to just sit there with my thoughts. And that's when my album just flooded out. Like I didn't write anything. I wasn't like, I'm going to sit down and write an album and then I'm going to put it on Spotify for everybody to hear. Like that was not my thought process. It was like I had this guitar I ended up with and I just was fiddling around in my room and with like a lot of just emotions and new thoughts and ideas. And it just kind of happened. And then honestly, it really wasn't until I came here and met Raquel and GT from Lovemore and Orson that I started to I started to be like, oh my, this could be I could spend all my time doing this. Like this could be a whole career. Like that never dawned on me. That wasn't even an option in my head. So I think how it transitioned was like, I always had this creative thread. Yeah. And it was like ignored and ignored and ignored until it couldn't be anymore. And so that's what happened.
Okay. Okay. And I'm really curious about like what was your sort of transit? Like has cooking and food always been like at the forefront of what you wanted to do? Or did you have a moment where you're like, oh, maybe I can do this too?
I'm not a cooking person. Okay. The one that has that talent is my sister.
Okay.
Right. So I always saw a talent on her, and I wanted it to be out. She's really quiet, but she's really creative. She doesn't really like to be outside. And I don't like it either, but I do it just to support. So when we came here, and as an immigrant, sometimes you have to do multiple things, right? You have to have a part-time job if you want to go to college and all that. So we used to work in a hotel in their bistro. And we moved here. She was having a hard time with college, and she said, I want to go and try something else. So she went for culinary school. And then I was doing my college years. I graduated from industrial engineering. So I'm more like the business mind and the operations mind. And, life happens. You have a plan. I always thought I was going to love corporate. I'm a workaholic. And I think I learned that from my parents. And I said, corporate is going to be for me. But life sometimes puts you in a position where you have time by yourself and you are like, is this what I want to do? And my case was becoming a mom. right? You have this little baby and everything changes. And at that point, I considered entrepreneurship. And I really didn't know what entrepreneurship was. Because if I knew, then I would realize it is double the work, right? Why am I going to do this if it's going to take me more time? But in the back of our mind, we always say, well, maybe eventually we'll open a place, because we both had work in the food industry. And it was 2017, and I told her, I think this is the year. That's when my son was born. And I didn't want to go back to work. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take some time off and try to figure this out. And we start planning the business. And I mean, she left also her job a couple of months later, and we jumped into this. We did have hard time finding financing for the business. Yeah. So we had to start with really limited capital. And at that point, I also had to take a full-time job. So I have always been doing both. She does all the cooking and all the day-to-day operations, and then I'm in the back supporting her with the menu, photos, anything else that you can think of. That will be me doing it. But I don't know. As I said, I wanted to transition into, spend time with the family. And then I ended up with a full-time job and then a business. So I kind of tripled myself, but that's something I really enjoy. And we have been in business for, 5 years almost?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about being able to have these conversations with, artists and business owners is that, you start to see the, similarities and, people's lives and their stories. And I think about you and, making that transition from, corporate to, entrepreneurship, and how scary that must have been. And then also for you, too, making that transition from, out of this world that, you've known for a very large, significant part of your life into, something that's completely opposite and different. Yeah. And I'm curious, as you guys were making those transitions and those fears that came up, what was it that allowed you to get past those fears and to continue and to press on into this new world of something new?
I mean, for me, is know your values and know where you're going, right? It's just whatever feels right on your heart. You will know it. If you are stressed out, that means something is wrong. I am stressed out a lot of the time when you have a business and when you have a job. But it just feels right what I'm doing. It's hard to explain, but it's just going to feel fine in your heart. Is this the right thing? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And as of right now, it has been working. But you also have to understand that there are cycles you have to close, right? For example, for me, was that transition between my job, my corporate job, to become an entrepreneur. Because I went to college, I spent 4 years in college, and you work really hard to get this degree, and then you decide to take a completely different route. And it took some time for me to understand that it doesn't mean I'm leaving the engineering world. I'm just using the same skills, but in a different setting. So it's just be authentic, talk to yourself, and know where you're going, and know those values. Know what is that makes you feel right. Know what is where you want to go, have your vision where you're going, because if you don't have any goals, then you are also going to feel lost, right? So it's simple to say it, but it's hard when you're trying to get it done.
For sure. I think for me, it's been a journey of trying to discover my nature, who I am and what I'm like. I think it's difficult. I love my parents, and I had a really pretty wicked cool childhood with all the things I got to do with horses, but it was really hard differentiating what I had always done versus what I wanted. And the question of what I wanted was I wouldn't be able to tell you. At that point, I wouldn't have. And so I think once I felt this sort of instinctual pull to something else that no one had told me to be drawn to and no one had influenced me to pursue, I was oh, that's me. That part's me. And that's that's pretty, like, totally very nerve-wracking. And, like, you know, my dad wasn't, like, super pleased when I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing this whole entire career you put, like, 25 years worth into, you know, like, I'm sorry, I don't want the farm. Like, yeah. So I think that's kind of what, at the end of the day, when there's, like, moments of anxiety, it's just like, well, like, nothing else has ever just sort of innately drawn me like that.
I like this, and both of you guys kind of mentioned it, this, like, it's almost like this, like, peace within chaos, or, like, within the storm. Like, I mean, you put it really perfectly by saying, like, you know, it's like there's crazy things and, like, it's hard, but, like, I feel at peace while I'm doing it, you know what I mean? And I feel like a similar thing coming from you. And I'm curious, as you guys been in Northwest Arkansas, how has the reception been? How has it been navigating, I guess, the change that has been going on recently within Northwest Arkansas? It's been growing like crazy. Like, I think I saw a statistic, like 30 people move here a day or something ridiculous like that. Like, how has it been as a business owner navigating that change? And then even as an artist and as a musician, like, how has it been navigating that change within Northwest Arkansas?
I think I really like that change. Like, I have always wanted to live somewhere with a little bit of a buzz. And I grew up in kind of small town Pennsylvania for the most part, the bigger part of my childhood that I remember. And I always was like, I want to go somewhere where there's, like, a lot going on and I can get all these different types of cuisines, and, you know, like, there's just a bunch of industry and, I don't know, passion. Just, you can sense people following their dreams and working hard and just energy. That's, like, always what I was drawn to. So I really like the fact that, and I think it's maybe easier for me to say because I'm not from here and I'm not, like, super connected to what Northwest Arkansas was, you know, because I am new, like, I'm a newer sort of member of the community. So maybe that's easier for me to say, but I'm like excited about it. I'm like, bring it on. Like, I want to see this place, you know, grow and just develop. It's like kind of like a baby city, you know, right now, and I want to see it be a teenager city and a young adult city. So
I like that.
I think it's cool.
Like that. That's good.
I agree. It's exciting for me. And again, well, I did move here back in 2007, so it's a lot different than what I look back there. But I love it, and because I'm thinking of the generation coming, right? Because I'm a mother, and I'm like, what is it my son can get here? So I want to have good schools. I want him to experience all around. And sometime in my period here, when I got married, there was a discussion of, we're probably going to need to move. I don't think we're going to fit here. What about my cultural family? My husband is Iranian, so he was like, I don't think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for me here, and we're still here. So it's a lot of changing parts, but I love what Northwest Arkansas is becoming.
It's beautiful. How do you, and I'm going to shoot this question your way too, but there's a lot of restaurants here. And there's a lot of restaurants coming, you know, and, like, you know, there's constantly ones being built. How have you differentiated yourself, your business, from what all the other restaurants here? How have you tried to be intentional, to be different, and to stand out over the years and going into the future as the city expands?
I think that comes easily when you put your heart and soul into a business. You're going to differentiate yourself no matter what. And when we started Bites and Bowls, I got it too serious, and I thought you had to develop a full menu. And later on, I find out that a lot of people just copy and paste from other cities and bring it here. But if you have been at Bites and Bowls, we came up with a completely breakfast in a waffle. That's the savory waffle. That's the most selling item that we have. So it's a really unique menu. And it's that what makes us different. And as I say, I'm from Mexico, so we use those Mexican ingredients, but we combine it with not so Mexican ingredients, right? So the Belgian waffles of course, they are Belgian waffles, so they don't come from the U.S. or from Mexico. But then what we put on top makes it different. And just reinvent yourself. Like our menu changes 3 times a year. We bring new stuff. There are some things that we just cannot take them out of the menu because those are the best sellers, and people get mad at me if I take it out. But we love new restaurants. I'm a foodie, so if there is a new restaurant, I will go and try it. And also because I know how hard it is to open a restaurant. So I do respect those owners and those people working there. And I don't see them as competition because we eat 3 times a day. So there is always going to be plenty of business for everyone, right? So I love when we have new restaurants. We are in Springdale. We are on the east side of Springdale. So we didn't have a lot. It's still considered like a desert zone of quality food, I will say, because we have mainly chain food, right? We have no fresh food in there, so people love it that we open there because they have an alternative to fast food and to like gas station food. Yeah. So
that's beautiful. What about you as an artist? Like, how have you?
I love eating. No, I think I was actually thinking a very similar idea of, especially with an artist and you saying like pouring your heart and soul into a business, like we're all different. So I think if you stick to that authenticity, like nobody is going to be able to write a song I write. They just can't because they don't have my brain or my hands, you know? So I think just trying to remember like, you know, it's really not a competition. Everyone's here to be inspired. And I think it's funny, when I was writing songs and working on my album up north, a lot of people told me, they were like, I think your music would fit like really, really well in the South. And I was like, at the time I was like, is that really, I don't, like, I'm in the North though, so like I don't know what to do about this, and I, you know, ended up here. So that's good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really. To me, I just need to stay true to what I'm doing, stay true to my visions, and I love being inspired by what other people are doing here. Like, there are so many people who are kind of similar in that they're like maybe have a folky tone to them. Then there are other people who are like completely different, and I find like everyone just as interesting. You know, just seeing people's brains in like the form of a song, in the form of food, in the form of you know, like photography or painting, or like I just love seeing expression. And yeah, I don't think we should be up here trying to compete. So
has it been easy or hard for you to sort of keep that authenticity intact? Like, I know, like, as an artist, like, there can be pressure from like just like a kind of general pressure of like, oh, this is what you need to be doing, this is what you need to be sounding like, you need to post 8 times a day, you need to do this, you need to do that, et cetera, et cetera. How have you, like, from like following you don't seem like you get too much into that. Like, how have you like maintained your authenticity despite that? Does that make sense? Yeah,
that makes sense. So I guess, like, there are some things, what you're talking, like tactics, right? Like business kind of strategy, like I'm going to release my music in this way because it's going to reach the most people, or I'm going to, like, I think there's a line between, like, you have to take advantage of the world you're in and the industry you're in the moment that everything's kind of like coexisting. And if right now, you know, people want singles, you know, like, I think it's not a terrible thing to kind of structure your plan around with considerations of what the market's kind of wanting. But I think the important part is like not living for that, like not completely creating and living to check those boxes. I think it's good to be like, okay, I'm aware of what's working, but I'm also aware there's like a ton of artists who are releasing stuff in their own ways, and it's super cool and catching people's attention. I think like at the end of the day, you have to find your own interpretation of the current moment. And like, for me, I work a full-time job. I work at a marketing agency. Hopefully not for like ever, but I definitely would like do more like just not content, but like things that meant, because that's such a tricky word. I feel like content kind of like dismisses the fact that like it means something to you. Like you're not just producing it because you need to fulfill the need of what, Instagram users want. But yeah, like little ideas I have, expressing them in little ways, whether it be through videos or songs or, I would love to put more time into it and connecting, with people virtually, with connecting with people more like in environments like this. But yeah, I think you just have to sort of use it, like use the knowledge of what's going on. And then if there's something you feel really strongly against, stay true to that, Like, I think it's just a combo. Yeah.
What about for you? I'm not sure what the business world, what the like restaurant industry, like I'm sure there are like little pressures of like, this is what is considered best practices or normal or whatever, and like how have you sort of maintained your authenticity in spite of those things?
So for us, I go back to values, right?
Yeah.
For the business, especially in particular bites and bowls, community will be one of our values. So authenticity will be one of our values. Friendliness is one of our values. So when we're in the business and when I'm hiring, I look for these values on my employees, right? That way I transmit this to my clients too. When someone enters Bites and Bowls, we always try to greet them, have a smile for them. Is this employee I'm trying to hire gonna reflect this? When it comes to community, it helps me make decisions, right? When there is a invitation for a partnership to collaborate with someone, is this part of my community? Does this align with my values? Same thing with authenticity is I just show up who I am, right? And there's people that may not like you, and that's okay. Like your food shouldn't be loved by everyone, right? I'm really proud of our customers, and we just have the best customers in a way. And I think we have created this following because we have clear what we want, right? Who we want to serve. And again, there is sometimes people may walk in and they're like, oh, you make waffles with hash browns and eggs and you put salsa on top. And they don't see it in their mind. Sometimes they're like, no, thank you. And sometimes they give it a try and then they become regulars. And you also have to learn not to take things personal, right? I think that's a life lesson that we're all gonna have one day. It's not you sometimes, it's just people are in different stages in their lives, and sometimes you don't have all the resources or all the tools that you need to put what you want, but just make it work with what you have, right? In our case, the reason why we have waffles made of hash browns is because we didn't have enough capital to have a full kitchen. So we had to think out of the box to bring a menu. Wow. And when you think out of the box and you put some effort into it, then you will have a bestseller, right? We started just with one, now we have 3. And again, it's easy to do it when you have it clear in your mind where it is you are going. And just show up who you are. Don't be ashamed of anything, and we all make mistakes, and don't take it personal. Sometimes people just not like it, and that's fine.
That's beautiful. Wow. I really like, you keep going back to like values and like these sort of core beliefs that have just like, they like guide you, they've been sticking with you, and they like, it's really cool to see people who have values and to like, hear them communicate them and talk about them and be like, no, that's what guides me. That's just what it is. It's like, that's it.
And the reason why I came out to values is because I have my crisis, right? I have my 25-year-old crisis. Like, what am I doing with my life? And that's what helps me, and that's what guides me. Wow. Like, is this something I really want to do? And when I want to take a new project, I go back and think about it, and I have it written down on my wall. I'm like, oh, does this align with that? And then your values change from time to time, right? Community was not my value when I opened the business. And then you start seeing that you start getting your regulars and you have your following, and you're like, well, I think I need to add this to the list. And then you may take something off, right?
Yeah.
So it's life. You just grow with it.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
Both of you have been talking about authenticity and just being yourselves like 100%, which is that comes off really clear in your music. Like your music is like you write a lot about personal things and like and I love like there's some artists that like write about like sometimes it's like general and it's like it's like vague and then like mysterious and you're like nah, this is about Ruby Lou.
Yep.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I guess I want to know like where it makes sense like hearing your story, like hearing that like you're coming from this world and like and then you have all this time to just sit and think and like you just processing. Like I guess I want to ask like when you were in that time you're working on your album and you're sort of realizing that you have this gift and that you want to use it more. What was it like? Did you find yourself going back to like memories a bunch and like just and how far back did you go? Like, was it like stuff that you were going through at the moment or was it stuff that you were like, oh, this was like 6 years ago and I remember this feeling at whatever, or was it stuff that was in the moment? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it was definitely in the moment.
Okay.
And I think that's why the songs end up so personal. It's not intentional. Like it's, like I said, it started very much as just a crutch for me. And like Deadlines, that song, I remember it's kind of funny to actually think back about this. Like I had this moment, it was like absolutely heartbreaking. It was basically like, yeah, this is the end. This is the end of this us, And I literally like just like walked back to my dorm room and I had a single because I was an RA and I immediately wrote Deadline. Like that was my reaction was I need to go. How I've started to like visualize it is those moments are so heavy with emotion. And like I will say all the time, I'm very sensitive. Like I just like I feel, and I think a lot of people are very sensitive. And I kind of like being like not like a spokesperson, but I like celebrating that, And so that enormous amount of like pain and there are so many things you can do with it, and you don't have a choice to feel that emotion, but you do have a choice as to how you're going to react. And like when you're feeling that, it could be so easy to pass it along to somebody else. It could be so easy to just be really passive aggressive or isolate yourself. And like I think what I ended up doing was I literally needed to like detach it from my body. And the way I did that was I put it into this thing and that I could revisit. So it's not like I completely rejected the emotion, like packed it away, locked the key, threw it away. I just was like, okay, this is super, super, super heavy and like I need to go to class tomorrow. So like I'm gonna get this out. I'm gonna put it in this song. And then every time I am either getting to the point where I'm just overflowing again, or maybe I feel super numb and I need to remind myself of my state of being, I would reach out to the song.
Wow.
And like, again, these songs were not shown to people for like at least a year. Like they were all for me.
They were just for you.
They were all for me. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, naturally they were like crazy honest because I didn't think of them as, for anyone else. And I love now that they are. And I love now that, like, I'll have people tell me, like, wow, I felt exactly what you were singing about. Like, I literally have, and putting it into words. And I think for me, being in that, like, emotion, I've written songs without that. Like I've written songs that are kind of retrospective, where I'm like, okay, 6 years ago this happened. But I think there's something about being in that moment that makes it way more easy to articulate it more clearly, because you are it. Like you are embodying that feeling, you are embodying that story. You literally are that story. So it's way easier to translate. Whereas if you're looking back at a memory, it's going to be more of like a narrator.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think both are super cool, but this particular album was super, super steeped in the moment. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta ask, what was that process like? You say you had those songs for like a year and they were just for you. What was the process of like, all right, I think I'm ready to let people hear this?
Ooh, it took a long time. I'm also not like a little flower of the spotlight. Like I've always been pretty shy. I never looked at someone on a stage and was like, I want to be them. Like that was not it for me. And I think what sort of encouraged that, I had this friend in college who I love so much. His name's Opie, and I was like singing in a stairwell of like this building that was shut down. Like no one was in this building, and I found a stairwell in it it's on the campus in Baltimore, my old school, and I was singing because I was like, no one's in here, so like this is my little secret. And like he happened to be like above on the stairwell, and he just sat there and listened to me, and I like knew of him at that point. We weren't like tight, and he just walked downstairs when I started to leave, and he was just like, excuse me, why are you not singing? Like, you're just hiding this from everybody? And I was like, yeah, I am, like, happily hiding this from everybody. I'd appreciate if you'd like keep this to yourself. Like, I got caught doing something bad. And I think it was just like moments, and then he told his like roommate, and his roommate was like the leader of the a cappella group.
More people started to
and everyone was like, can you sing? Can you like sing? And I was like, I guess. And it took forever. Like, I sent in an audio recording of me for an audition because I was like, I'm not singing in front of you. I will sing with you. I'm not going to sing in front of you. It took a really, really long time. And it's funny now, I think, now that I'm writing, like having the awareness that, okay, this is going to be shared, it is such a different experience. It is, because it's just, I have that awareness, I didn't have that awareness before. And you can't just like, I can't just like cut that off. I try, but it's funny, like it definitely has impacted a little bit of just like how I communicate in my songs, which aren't out yet, but they will be. Yeah.
Okay, that is leading me into my last question. What do you have coming up next?
I have a really cool single coming up. I don't think I really want to say much about it. We'll just let it drop. Okay. And then, I guess I have some secrets. Then I have a show that's also coming up. It's like in a month and a half, but it's kind of like on the down low for now. But it's going to be really cool. It's going to be really, really cool. It's going to be with my band. I love singing with my band. It just like completely takes the songs to another space, and just brings like different energy. So that's super cool. It'll be on my Instagram and everything.
Okay.
You can follow me.
Let's go. Where can we follow you?
On Instagram it's @_Sarah_Lily. Lily spelled like the flower, Lily.
What about you guys? What does Bites and Bowls have coming up next?
We run a couple of events right there at Bites and Bowls from time to time. Just follow on social media to know what's coming.
Okay. What's your social media?
You got me here. I never give it away. I think it's bites.and.bowls. I don't know if someone can check that for me.
I typed in Bites and Bowls and it came up. You'll find it.
Okay, I got it right. I usually just don't go and look for myself. That's where we post what's coming. Come visit us. We're in Springdale. And that's it. Thanks for the invite.
Let's go.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us for this month of the lunch hour. Thank you guys for staying and hearing our conversation. We really appreciate it. Again, this is KUAF's The Lunch Hour, and we will see y'all next month. Boom, that's a wrap.